Hi everyone, in today's video we are going to meet our church's newest renter, Gary Wolfe of Bunny Chow La Jolla. And we're also going to reflect a little bit about some of the events that have happened in the past couple weeks and ways that we can come to make meaning out of them. I can't wait for you to join us. Meet Gary Wolfe, the Congregational Church of La Jolla's newest renter. A native of South Africa, Gary is bringing a very popular South African food to La Jolla.
First of all, it's wonderful to be at your space at the church here. You guys have been amazing to me. So first of all, thank you for that. So let me introduce you to Bunny Chow. As you can see, I'm all kitted out right here, playing it safe. Bunny Chow originally is from India. It was known as Banya food. Now, Banya is actually a caste in India. And as Indian indentured laborers came to South Africa and worked in the sugar plantations, they actually couldn't use a roti bread at lunch to eat their food, because obviously it would get put on and they weren't even using plates. It was messy. So they would use a half loaf of bread hollowed out, almost like a bread bowl, but they would eat the bread, and so they would get their food like that. And then later on in South Africa, we coined it Bunny Chow. We changed the name Banya to Bunny, and then Chow we use as a slang for food, so it became Bunny Chow. And we have it in. I'm serving it. South Africa typically it's with mutton or lamb. I'm doing a lamb, a beef, or vegetarian. So you can get it in those three combinations. I will also in time add, we have something called a boerewors roll, or we call it a boerie roll, which is a really thick, almost like the bratwurst German sausage. I'm going to add things as we go, but Bunny Chow is what I'm starting with. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from South Africa, from Johannesburg. Also was fortunate enough to live in Cape Town, and like a lot of South Africans, I went to live in London for a couple of years. I also did a year in Israel, which was amazing. And I love travel. I've traveled through, when I say traveled, I mean backpacking, like budget traveling. I've traveled through Southeast Asia, China, the States, Mexico, Canada, Europe, a lot of Southern Africa, Australia. And, I obviously when you travel, one of the positive things about a country is discovering its people, its food, the culture. And food is such a positive part of every culture. It's something to explore, totally apolitical. And I really do believe that food is almost a pillar of world peace, because when you come together with another culture and you eat their food, suddenly politics and genres and stereotypes just totally melt away. And when the food melts in your mouth, I guess the stereotypes melt away, if I can put it that way. So I want to introduce South African food to America, and have Americans learn a little more about South Africa through the food. And I feel like that's really what, in the long term, we need, especially at this time. We just need positivity and to learn more about one another.
All right, guys, so we just heard from Gary. He's actually going to go heat up the lamb so it gets to 140, and he told me to come back in an hour. So I'm going to come back in an hour, and he's going to give us a little bit of a demo of how he sets up Bunny Chow, and then I'm going to get to sample it. So I'll see you then. The history of Bunny Chow is intimately tied to the history of South Africa. In the 19th century, the British Empire was at the height of its power, and at the center of its power was India. India was Britain's largest colony and its greatest source of wealth. Part of that wealth relied on the slave trade. With the end of the slave trade, British merchants and settlers needed a large number of workers. European agents would traverse India and recruit laborers to work overseas on sugar plantations and factories and in building railroads. These contracts were long, dangerous, and difficult. The result of this was a diaspora of Indian people across the globe. While all of this was happening, various parts of South Africa were brought under British domination. Beginning in the 1860s, Indian indentured laborers were sent to South Africa to work on sugar plantations. While many left as soon as they were able to, some remained in South Africa. To this day, 2.5% of the population of South Africa is of Indian descent. These Indians found work as clerks, as railroad laborers, and as shopkeepers. However, they also encountered considerable racism, especially when competing with other South Africans. These migrant laborers were in search of a cheap lunch food that they could easily transport to work. They were looking for an easy way to carry their traditional curries, and putting them inside of bread was one way to do it. While they didn't have access to traditional roti, they did have access to white bread, and it wasn't that difficult to find. During apartheid, Black South Africans needed a way to take their lunch to go when many restaurants would refuse to serve them, and thus Bunny Chow became very popularized among all segments of the South African population. Today, it is a beloved food of South Africa, and it's one that is beginning to show up in many different countries across the world. It is delicious, and the curry leans on certain ingredients that are common in South African cuisine, such as cardamom and turmeric, and it tends to be not too spicy. Vegetarian bunny chows are very common, but mutton is the most popular. You can find bunny chow all over South Africa, but it's an institution in the city of Durban, and the best bunny chow shops are said to be there. But now, La Jolla will have one of the best bunny chow shops in all of California. All right, guys, I just arrived at the church, Diet Coke in hand, so let's go talk to Gary and find out what bunny chow really is.
Here's your bunny chow. Let's actually turn it that way around for you. Got your cilantro, some potatoes, your lamb. This is ready to roll.
All right, it looks good. I'm ready to go.
Cool.
All right, thank you so much.
Would you like a bag with that?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Sure.
Thank you.
So we'll just do a little wrap up.
All right, guys, so this is what it looks like when you take it out of the bag. And Gary uses all biodegradable packaging here, he was telling me, including the spoon. And so I'll just show you. And there it is. And he even gives you the best part, which is the gooey center of the bread. And so I'm really looking forward to this. And so I wish I could share this with all of you, but you can come down to the church yourself Wednesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And you can try this for yourself and to support Gary and to support our newest renter, which we're really proud to have. I got the lamb, and it's not too spicy. It's really perfect for like a day sort of like today, which is a little bit overcast. And so I'm going to enjoy this, and I hope you're eating something really tasty as well. And I hope you'll come on down and you'll meet Gary and you'll try Bunny Chow for probably the first time. So I'll see you all later. Before we conclude this segment on Bunny Chow, I just wanted to share my own connection to South Africa. One of the most amazing trips that I ever got to take was to South Africa. And while I was there, I had one of the most incredible meetings of my life with Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And being able to share Thanksgiving with him and with the former U.S. ambassador to South Africa was a truly incredible experience. I know I've preached on this before, but a video segment on South Africa just wouldn't feel complete without at least mentioning this. While we don't have time to cover this story today, maybe it'll be the topic of a future video. One of the things that we didn't really have time to talk about yet was what happened on January 6th. And I know sometimes it takes us a long time to process something, particularly something that's so violent and unbelievable. I'm filming this on Inauguration Day, so today feels like a day of hope and promise and new beginnings, regardless of what side you happen to be on. Today is a day that feels like is very historic for many reasons, including the fact that California's senator is now the vice president of the United States. And so I also wanted to just take a moment to talk a little bit about January 6th, because I have gotten some questions about that, particularly with regard to the use of religion and particularly Christianity in the actions that happened that day. I had someone ask me about the nature of prayer as it relates to these folks who stormed the Capitol and violently broke into it. When they got onto the Senate floor, there were some of them who prayed. And obviously, they consider themselves Christian and they are praying to Jesus. And someone was having a difficult time reconciling how the God of justice that we proclaim could be the same God to whom they are praying, and obviously are praying for very different things than any of us might be praying for. And so I thought about that, and I thought that I would address that today. And also, a particular scripture came to mind when I thought about this, and so I'll share that with you as well. This is from the first chapter of Isaiah. I cannot bear your worthless assemblies. I hate them with all my being. They have become a burden to me. I am weary of bearing them. When you spread out your hands in prayer, I hide my eyes from you, even when you offer many prayers. I am not listening. Your hands are full of blood. Wash and make yourselves clean. Take your evil deeds out of my sight. Stop doing wrong. Learn to do right. Seek justice. Defend the oppressed. Take up the cause of the fatherless. Plead the case of the widow. One of the things that I'm reminded of is the commandment to not use the Lord's name in vain. Now, popular culture would have us believe that this requires us not to swear. I think it cuts deeper than that. I think God is less concerned with foul mouths and much more concerned about the way words are used to pervert the truth in the halls of power. We use the Lord's name in vain whenever we speak untruths and cloak them in the vestiges of the divine. When we evoke the name of the Lord to further an agenda that isn't rooted in inclusion and dignity for all people, we are engaging in this sin. Isaiah 1 read in the context of last week, spells this out for us so clearly. The people at the time were doing things that they thought were of God. And here God tells them through the prophet Isaiah that what they're doing is actually quite the opposite. God hates their empty religion and their worthless assemblies. If you do a slow reading of Isaiah 1, you can find a lot. These worthless assemblies are something that we hear makes God weary. I don't know about you, but I'm weary too, and God is weary with us. Yet we shall not anguish because God has told us exactly what to do right, to seek justice, to defend the oppressed, and to take up the cause of the fatherless, and to plead the case of the widow. From a historical perspective, I think it's quite the case study for anthropologists to see a group of people take a Palestinian man from the first century who was a radical revolutionary with an empire-crushing message, and to transform him into this quasi-American whitewashed folk hero who props up white supremacy. I'm sure there's a lot of ink that can be spilled on this, and this has been a long time in the making. But the reality is that the Christian nationalism that these people promote is, in my opinion, not Christianity in any sense. It's almost some sort of homespun folk religion using Christian elements. So while you may have seen them praying inside the Capitol, if Isaiah tells us anything, it's quite clear. God says, I'm not listening. Wash and make yourselves clean. I'd like to think that that washing that we hear of here from Isaiah is a bit of a foreshadowing to baptism. We wash ourselves by remembering our baptism and the call to do justice that was placed on us at that moment. And we stand at the font, ready to receive all of those people who wish to be received into Christ's church. God tells them and all of us, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, and plead the case of the widow. So we do just that. We learn, we seek, we defend, and we take up the cause. I think the good news here is that God keeps an open offer on the table for all. The invitation is always there for those who wish to stop doing wrong. The conversation is never over. God is not listening to these empty and worthless prayers of white nationalists because God is too busy still speaking to us a word of truth for our day. That word of truth beckons all to the font and to the table to be washed and to receive grace. And I say, amen to that.